on today to listen to this topic. This is a very important topic, and I just want to say thank you for coming out to listen. I also want to say thank you to Covenant Sadeoju, founder of the Mind Healing Coaching Network, for this opportunity to talk today. It's a really big privilege, and I do not take it for granted. Okay, so my name is David Ayonfeoluwa Adebowale. I don't know if you can see my slides. Can you see my slides, please?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you so much, Adebowale. And I am a medical student here at OAU and also a sexual and reproductive health and rights advocate at Campus Health and Rights Initiative here at OAU. And so I'll be talking today on this very important topic, rebuilding intimacy after sexual trauma. And you will have seen that Covenant has even spoken about majorly everything I'm going to say. I'm just here to build on what she has said. This is a very, very sensitive topic, and we're going to try our best to just discuss it today. Okay, so this is a gentle note to everybody. Ms. Covenant has mentioned this already, but I would just like to talk more about it. So this discussion is going to touch around sexual trauma, it's going to touch on intimacy, and this can bring different emotions for different people. And that's why we're taking our time to remind you that please, you can feel free to engage in whatever way feels comfortable for you. And if at any point you would need to pause, if you need to step away, even to take care of yourself, it is completely okay. And finally, I want to add that support exists and healing is possible. Healing is very much possible. Some manifestations come immediately, some come after. Our brains are complex and we cannot exactly predict the way each person's brain is going to react to something. Talking about statistics, WHO said that globally, 1 in 3 women will experience physical and or sexual violence, either by a partner or by a non-partner. 1 in 3 people. This is a very significant number. And this means that this discussion we're having today is very important, not just for you, even for your neighbors, even for everybody around. Because these statistics, this is about 33%, and it's a very significant part of our population. Then as a note, I also added that men can also experience sexual violence, even though in this terms like she, because more women experience it than men. But that doesn't also now exclude men from benefiting from this. The principles we discussed today apply to people of both gender, men or women. And something very important for everybody to note is that trauma does not end with the events. Trauma does not end with the events. And one thing is, sexual abuse is not only a betrayal of human trust and affection. It is like an attack on a person's sexuality. It's an attack on a person's bodily autonomy. And this attack, usually from history, from research, from prevalence data, shows that people who face this attack usually have negative impacts on their sexual attitudes, on their ability to form intimate relations, and on their reactions later. So now I'll just try to quickly go through, before we talk about rebuilding, let's try to consider and look at some of the reactions that can happen after someone has sexual trauma. And then this slide is telling us that these reactions are understandable. So, and while these effects are not permanent, that's a good. But while they are not permanent, they can be very, as they can decrease the one intimacy with others for some time. It has a variety of effects on intimacy. And like these symptoms after, it is also understandable. At this point, I just want to know if you can still hear me or if you are still following.
Yeah.
Hello, can
Yes.
anybody still hear me? Okay, thank you.
Yes.
So moving on. Oh, okay, thank you so much. Thank you. So now let's try to break down these common effects. They can be emotional, they can be physical, they can be relational. I just grouped them this way so that you can picture them in groups. I don't know if you can see them well on your side, but I'll try to explain them as much as possible. So now the emotional effects can include negative feelings. Someone who has been traumatized can feel anger, can feel disgust. The person can feel guilt when you touch them. They can also feel emotionally distant or not present. Just that feeling of just being away. It's not just connecting. They can't just form that intimate connection with anybody. Then the third one is intrusive sexual thoughts and images. And this one is usually very disturbing. They can just be going through their normal day and then a very disturbing image, maybe of a memory from when they were being assaulted, can just come on their mind and they cannot will it to go. It disturbs them. Sometimes during periods of intimacy, these images also come and it's very, very disturbing. And so it usually leaves people who face it very, very, very confused and distraught because they don't want to experience this, but they don't really know how to navigate it. The second part to talk about is the physical effects on intimacy, and this one includes pain during contact. Sometimes people can feel pain after sexual trauma. Anytime they try to initiate intimacy, they can feel pain. The second one is difficulty becoming aroused. And this one can cause issues for someone, for example, who is in a relationship and the partner wants to try to get intimate, but everything is not working. They've tried and tried, but there's just that difficulty in getting the arousal. And this is now another example of how sexual trauma can affect someone's life long term, because this can become an issue in relationships. And the third one is automatic physical reactions. I'm still going to talk about this part later on, so let's just keep it for now. So I'll move over to the relational effects of trauma on intimacy. The first one is avoiding or being afraid of intimacy. I don't know if you've met people who say they don't want to engage in maybe relationships, or they don't want to get intimate with people. Sometimes these things are as a result of past trauma, but people can't just go explaining to everybody that no, this is why this is so, or this is why this is not so. But it's important for us to know that one effect of trauma on intimacy is that it makes people afraid, or it makes them want to avoid intimacy. A second difference. So I'll just move on from here to the next slide. Yes, I'll be talking about the sexual abuse mindset. The sexual abuse mindset. Now, remember when we defined trauma, we said it had a psychological aspect to it, in addition to the physical aspect. And this mindset is a consequence of trauma. This mindset is made up of false beliefs about sex and intimacy. And it has negative effects on survivors' ability to get intimate after trauma. So the thing is, we don't call these people victims, we call them survivors. they've survived it, and now they are going to find a way to get over it. But it's important for us to note that, like we said, one can heal from trauma. It's also possible to recover or to shift from a sexual abuse mindset to healthy sexual attitudes or healthy intimate attitudes. So now on this new slide, I'm going to be talking about those trauma-based beliefs and then the beliefs one has when one has healthy sexuality. I don't know if anybody can still hear me at this point. I don't want to leave anyone
Yes.
lost.
We can hear you.
Okay, thank you. So the first one is that sex is an obligation. That's one belief. People who have gone through trauma might believe it's an obligation, it's something they must do. Partners can believe, no, because we are married or because we're in a relationship, you have to get intimate, you have to have, no. The healthy belief there is that it is a choice. You can choose when you want to get intimate. It is solely your right. It's a part of you, what we call being autonomous. You don't engage in intimate relations when you don't want to. You shouldn't engage in it because this is what people say is the right time to, or no, it's my duty to. No, it's not an obligation. It's a choice. And the pathway to healing actually starts with recognizing the difference between these trauma-based beliefs and then healthy beliefs. So, when you can see this, you scan yourself and the beliefs you've had over time now, and then you try to transition. The more healthy beliefs you are, the closer you are to healing from trauma. A second belief is that sex or intimacy is unsafe. And of course, trauma makes a person who was undergone it to believe that really. Talk about a person who was probably age whatsoever. It can reinforce that mindset that it's something unsafe. But in fact, it is safe and it's meant to be enjoyed by people who participate in it. But that's only when one has been healed. That's when one has a healthy mindset already. Now, before I continue, let me just reiterate or mention that having this trauma-based belief or mindsets is not your fault. Having this should not see it as a label on yourself. It's just a result of what you were exposed to. It's just like if you kick a ball, for example, the ball is going to move. It's not the ball's fault that it moved when it was kicked. So it's totally normal, and it's possible, and it's totally possible to move from into it. I'll just keep what the questions would be. Talks about trauma mind, and we talked about the importance of having conversations. So right now, I'll just try to talk about automatic reactions. That's something that skips for later. So now, people usually complain sometimes after facing trauma that they try to intimacy, they try to initiate sex and things like that, but they had reactions. Either maybe they froze, or they got angry, or they started having panic attacks. So this is one because, and that's what we call automatic reactions to touch. Classified into main patterns. It can be fright, it can be freeze, and it can be fawn. We say we have the fight or the fright system. When you get extremely afraid, or when you get extremely angry and you want to fight. It's also one of free feel bad touch. So sometimes after expressing trauma and certain these reactions. They can they can fight this fun, and fun is when you comply out of other examples are obtained. But now let's quickly talk about it because the first one is to stop intimacy. Pay attention to your deep breathing. Another one is something we call grounding. Before I go out, let me just, or when you have ongoing anxiety or you are regularly having panic attacks or you're just hypervigilant, you're just feeling afraid, you also need professional help when there's emotional numbness or when you're not able to function, the normal way you used to before the trauma. And so I'll just list the support channels you can get. We have medical channels, we have mental health channels. Medical channels include SRH clinics. For example, in the OAU campus, there's the Youth Friendly Center. It's fitted with counselors who are there from Monday to Friday, and these people are trained to handle sexual and reproductive health issues. You can have access to SGBV services. There's post-assault care, and then there are S-type screenings. Of course, you can also get care from psychologists and trauma-informed counselors. You can also get care from your trusted friends. Another one that's very important is the legal support. Having a form of legal support, knowing that, for example, someone who traumatized you has actually faced punishment by the law can actually have a calming effect on you. There are gender-based violence response units in our legal units in the country. There are legal aids, and then there are advocacy groups. A last one to mention is that you should also have emergency contacts you can always call. There are many crisis hotlines. Recently on social media, they've been circulating on for Lagos State, and there are hotlines for medical services too, and these people can actually help. So rounding up, before I say I hand over to Ms. Covenant for the questions and I say thank you, is just a note to say that healing is possible. Intimacy can begin when you learn to feel safe in your own body again. That's what's primarily important, learning to feel safe in your body again, and when you will build trust one step at a time. Honestly, I'd have loved to have gone deeper in this with you, but network just went off. Thank you very much, everybody, for listening. Thank you for your time.
Similar situation, this would be like an answer to the person's problem or issues. So I'll be asking just few questions because of our time, and I will start with the first question. The first question says, I want to be intimate again, but every time I get turned on, it's sensitive though. Every time I get turned on, I get a flashback. My brain links arousal to danger. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Every time I get turned on, I get flashback. My brain links arousal to danger. How do I unlearn something my body learned to survive? Let me repeat the question. The question says, I want to be intimate again, but every time I get turned on, I get a flashback. My brain links arousal to danger. How do I unlearn something my body learned to survive? Yes, that's the question. I don't know if you heard.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I heard. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Now, this is an example of what I would have discussed. This is one of the things we call automatic responses. And automatic responses are natural. It's just your brain trying to protect you. So it's okay for you to, it's okay if you have flashbacks. It's okay if you have those reactions. But the way to now do is now to try to reorient your mental processes. But before I go into this, I would just say, your body, for example, has perceived probably a trigger as something dangerous, and your body just wants to protect you from that scenario, and that's why this reaction comes up. But then, in a scenario where you experience flashbacks, for example, I think the first thing to do is to even stop that sexual or intimate contacts. You should stop at that point. Of course, if you're in a healthy relationship, your partner, you should have had discussions with your partner before. Your partner should be aware of some of these things. And so it's be okay to tell your partner, sorry, I can't continue, I want to stop. And even if you can't talk, your partner should be able to see the cues on your face. So now when you stop, what are you going to do? The flashback is there. That's what we talk about grounding. Grounding is about trying to reorient yourself, trying to make yourself remember that, okay, now I'm in the present, I'm not in that memory. And so what are the things you can do? For example, try breathing. You can try breathing deep and then breathing out. You can try checking what you see around you, just to remind yourself that you're not in that memory. You can count maybe 5 things you can see slowly. You can list 4 things maybe that you can hear. You can list 3 things that you can feel. Things that will bring you back to the present. This is just one example of what you can do in that scenario. I don't know if the answers is well enough.
Yes, thank you very much for answering. A man, I was abused as a kid. Now when my wife tries to be intimate, sometimes I get angry or shut down. She thinks I'm rejecting her. I don't know how to say that your touch scares me and I hate that it does. At this point, what can the man do? I'll repeat the question. It says, I'm a man. I was abused as a kid. Now, when my wife tries to be intimate, sometimes I get angry or shut down. She thinks I'm rejecting her, and I don't know how to say to her that her touch scares me and I hate that it does. At this point, what can you do? Yeah, that's a question.
Okay, thank you. So
Sir.
this scenario is for a man who has been traumatized,
Yes.
and when his wife touches him, he gets angry.
Yes.
He feels scared by her.
Yes.
But one thing I would like to mention that's different from the response I gave for the other scenario is the fact that it's not a wife. We should remove, for example, in that previous scenario, when the woman had a flashback, if she had told her partner about it and the partner was getting angry, it would have been a wrong reaction, because she is not the problem. The problem is the trauma, not the person. So that's one thing to first. Instead of telling the wife that your touch scares me, you can make her understand that the trauma still has some effect. The trauma is still causing that reaction. And of course, if you have an heart-to-heart, what I'm saying now is not what you should do instantly at that point. Of course, a person who has faced trauma and is in a relationship should have had real, truthful conversations with their partners. They might have laid ground rules already of what to do when what happens. So I'm just trying to brush up on these ground rules because we didn't really talk about them due to the network.
Okay.
So now, the first thing is, you know that, okay, it's not the wife that's the problem, it's the trauma that's the problem. And so you understand that. So when you tell her, when she sees it on you, she would know that It's that automatic reaction. And so it's not even going to put any blame on that. The issue of telling her that a touch scares you, because it's not actually a touch, it's just, it's not a touch that's the problem, like we've said over and over again. But then what Sunan do when that comes? This thing, it requires some form of vulnerability. Instead of responding with emotion and saying, hey, shouting and everything, you can maybe say, my chest is getting tight. When we get angry, each of us has a different way we express anger. Some people have tightness in their chest. Some people, their jaw clenches. So when these signs appear, you can communicate the sensation you are feeling instead of the emotion. Instead of telling her that she scares you, you can tell her that actually maybe your heart is beating faster, or your chest is getting tight, or there's just a way you're feeling. So that way, your partner is going to be able to understand you better than when you respond in anger. Then something else you can do is like a 20 minutes rule. So, when you get angry or when you get exposed to that flight or fright response, this is a classical example of that flight or fright response. So, your body releases hormones like adrenaline. And so when this anger comes, for example, what you can do is just to take some time, maybe a 20 minutes break. Within this period, the normal physiological, this period is enough for the levels of adrenaline you have in your blood to go down back to their baseline levels. And that's just a very good way of managing it. When you take that break, these hormones go down to baseline. And many of our reactions are actually, how can I say, managed by these hormones. But one thing that is important you should not do is that during the time you are trying to wait, during those 20 minutes time, don't think about the conflicts. Don't think about what's happening there. You can do something neutral. You can maybe wash dishes. You can maybe walk or something like that. I think this is one way to manage this situation.
So, the next question says, my partner never pressures me, but I pressure myself. I feel guilty every night we don't have sex. How do I stop feeling like I owe my body to someone just because they are nice to me? I repeat, the question says, my partner never pressures me, but I pressure myself. I feel guilty every night we don't have sex. How do I stop feeling like I owe my body to someone just because they are nice to me? That's the question.
Oh, all right. Thank you. Sorry, I'm getting some feedback. Let me.
Okay.
I would say that this question you've asked is a very real one, and it's something many survivors feel. Many survivors feel like they owe sex or intimacy to a partner that is maybe patient with them or nice to them. And this is what we call that obligatory sex. When you feel like this person is maybe my savior, I'm just giving a parallel now. And so because he or she is my savior, or he or she is patient with me, or he or she takes care of me, I have to do something in return. And if I can't do that thing in return, I'm actually worthless. No. And that would have been covered. I don't know if my network was still on at that point.
Okay.
But I was talking about the healthy mindset versus the trauma mindset. So the first thing is that you should not feel like you owe anybody. There's nothing like sexual debt. Your partner is patient with you, it's okay. And you should not feel like you have to do something. And what comes into play in this point is that, active trying to rewire your mental processes. Look at yourself as someone who is old. Don't look at yourself as someone who is damaged. Don't look at yourself like someone who is helpless or worthless. You are human. You have your autonomy. You have your own rights. And something very important at this point is self-compassion. You know, the way you say you look at someone else with compassion, also look at yourself with compassion. Don't keep yourself bothered about your recovery. That's something else I would have mentioned. The fact that when you want to get healed, you don't give yourself timelines. You don't say, okay, by in 3 months I must have gotten to this level, or I must have done this. No, you don't have to do that. Then something else is that even if you I can't remember the full form of the question at the end now, but I'm going to say that you should redefine what intimacy means. Intimacy doesn't necessarily mean having the traditional sexual activity. But for that, you shouldn't feel like you have to. Intimacy can be a deep conversation you have with someone you love. Intimacy can be maybe like a shared shower where there's no touching, or where there's no holding hands safe. Or it can even just be a wall with a person where you hold hands and then you bare your souls to each other. So you can actually feel successful at intimacy without needing to perform sexually. Now, because I can't remember the end of the question, I don't know if I've covered
Yes,
the answer. But okay.
you did. You did.
All right, thank you.
I deeply appreciate everyone who has took out of their time to be here today. I want to say thank you from the biggest part of my heart. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for coming. And I want to acknowledge something for some of us. Just listening today was actually a form of healing. Yeah. So, like our speaker has said, healing is very possible. Yes, and it is not a straight line. It can be messy, it can be slow, it can be so confusing, but in as much you are moving, it is enough. So part of the things that we've learned today in summary and what we should take with us as we go, I want us to know that whatsoever has happened to you regarding sexual urges or whatsoever is not your fault. I want us to say it to ourselves, anyone who has experienced this, that it is not your fault. Let the truth begin to settle down into places where shame has lived for too long. Secondly, your body is not your enemy. Yeah, it has been hurt. It has protected you, it has survived. It may make you may feel broken, but it is not actually your enemy. Your body is actually trying to feel safe again, so be very patient with it and be gentle with it. Then thirdly, intimacy is not a race. There is no deadline. There is no too slow. You are allowed to take years. In fact, you're allowed to take decades. You're allowed to never want certain kind of touch. Like our speaker has said, it is you have the right. It said something around autonomy or something. Yeah. You have the right to either say that you want to get intimate sexually or not. So your boundaries, so you're allowed to never want certain kind of touch, like I've said, and your boundaries are not actually walls. They are the doors that only you have the key to. So you decide whether to open it or to close it. So fourthly, you deserve love, not because you are healed enough, not because you have earned it. You deserve love simply because you are human and you are worthy of softness, patience, and care. Do not let anyone convince you otherwise. So you are not alone. I know it feels that way sometimes. Yeah, but you're not alone. So many others are carrying the same weight, and many people are trying to heal. So I would like us to try to heal. So before we go tonight, we say a short prayer, and it goes that, dear God, whatsoever name you call the love that owns the universe, we come to you tired. We come to you carrying pain that words cannot reach. We see every survivor in the room and wherever in the world. You know every tear that has fallen in secret. We ask you now to wrap your arms around each person here. You heal the places that feel beyond healing. Quiet the voice that speaks shame. Remind us that we are not what was done to us. We are more, we are whole, we are worthy. Give us one more day of courage, one more moment of peace, one more reason to hope. In Jesus' mighty name. Thank you once again for being here. Thank you for taking your time to be here. I pray that you I hope that you have a very good night, and I want you to remember that you are not broken and you are not forgotten.